Coming up in the news, the Valeria to resume passenger ferry service. Also, residents react to new U.S. international travel requirements. And police clearing the air on a social media message that has gone viral. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Shashina Wolf-Farkas, and as always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, the Bahamas government giving approval to the Valeria Caribbean to resume passenger service between Fort Lauderdale, Florida and Grand Bahama this week. This approval comes after the company was forced to suspend passenger service following restrictive measures implemented by the Bahamas government due to a spike in COVID-19 cases in July of last year. Now, this news is being celebrated by leaders within the tourism industry on Grand Bahama, as well as government officials. And in this report, they share how this move will have a positive impact on the island's economy. Natalia Hall reports.
In a letter addressed to the managing director of Valeria Caribbean, Mario Otero, from the nation's leader, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, it states that the Prime Minister and the competent authority gives authorization to the Valeria Caribbean to resume passenger ferry service between Grand Bahama and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, the letter also stating that the authorization is subject to a list of terms and conditions. Among those conditions, each passenger before embarkation must provide proof of a COVID-19 RT-PCR or antigen test with a negative result from an accredited lab no more than 3 days old. General Manager of JAGS International, who is also a representative for Valeria Caribbean, James Turner, says he is pleased with the decision made by the government, and it was a team effort by tourism officials as well as government officials.
I believe it's going to be a significant step in the recovery to the tourism business on Grand Bahama and really to begin to get the engine to begin to churn.
Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama, Peter Turnquest, and Member of Parliament for Central Grand Bahama, the Honorable Iram Lewis, say for Grand Bahama, this is now another option to travel to the United States.
Which is important to us, not only because of the situation at the airport, but also because this vessel provides economical freight services for the Grand Bahama community. And particularly when you talk about small businesses, this service that they provide is vital to them to be able to provide a cost-effective product here on the island.
Valeria operators put the necessary physical and procedural protocols in place to ensure that, first of all, the passengers are safe. And having done that and going through the regular inspections by the COVID-19 task force, they were satisfied with what they saw. The matter was presented to the government, and the government had no issue with releasing the Valeria to once again go into operation. Understanding that right now we're challenged with respect to airlift in Grand Bahama, the cruise line, so the Valeria is indeed a lifeline.
General Manager of the Ministry of Tourism, Stephen Johnson, says they have been looking forward to seeing the ship resume passenger service.
One of the things we want to do better in tourism is connecting the dots with the international markets, being our colleagues from the Bahamas tourist offices abroad, having them connect the visitors out of their destinations from Canada, the USA, the UK, taking the Valeria, not just Bahamians, but also another option for persons to travel into Grand Bahama. The object is basically to put heads in beds, to make sure that our cab drivers are all benefiting. All aspects of businesses throughout the island of Grand Bahama is what we want to do.
Now, there were several dates announced for the resumption of passenger service in the past, but service did not resume. Turner says this time he is very optimistic.
I'm confident that we're going to go because the reality is Valeria needs Grand Bahama and Bimini to move forward. Now they've got Grand Bahama moving forward. We've already begun taking bookings. Prior to that, we were restricted even on the bookings. So the bookings are open, so they're accepting passengers. So we have every reason to believe that the service will be restored and we'll be moving forward.
Now, in that letter from the Prime Minister to the Managing Director of Valeria Caribbean, it states that the approval is valid until April 30th, 2021, unless otherwise amended or revoked. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Well, Valeria Caribbean also releasing a statement noting that they are pleased that the company is finally able to move forward, adding that they will follow all of the safety protocols to ensure that passengers remain safe. Italia Hall has the details.
According to officials at Valeria Caribbean, the vessel is currently on dry dock, receiving maintenance and getting prepared to resume passenger service. During the first phase, the company has announced that they will travel once a week on Thursdays to Freeport, Grand Bahama. The first sailing date is scheduled for Thursday, February 11th, 2021. A second sailing is expected to begin on Sundays at the end of February. The new passenger sailing will coincide with the already established cargo route. Based on demands, the company is hoping to increase the number of sailings per week by March. According to reports, the Valeria is the first shipping company in operation to have a global safe site COVID-19 certificate. Other notable measures include temperature scanning for each passenger before boarding, easy access to sanitizer dispensers in the terminals and aboard the vessel. It will be mandatory for staff members and passengers to wear a face mask at all times throughout the travel process. Passengers will be required to practice social distancing from people and other parties, and the company has reduced the capacity of the vessel by 40%. Officials at Valeria Caribbean say that they will continue to work closely with the United States and Bahamian government to follow all of the latest travel guidelines. They recommend that all passengers verify all current travel requirements with the corresponding countries involved before making their travel arrangements. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Passengers traveling to the United States from an international country will now be required to present a negative PCR or antigen test upon arrival as of January 26. In addition, persons will be required to quarantine for several days. While local tourism officials are weighing in on these new requirements, General Manager of JAGS International, James Turner, says he does not see the new requirements as a major deterrent.
In the short term, when you get a knee-jerk reaction, there's always some concerns. But let's be real. There are a number of persons that are going to be visiting the United States for 2 and 3 days. Where are they going to quarantine? You're going to go into the United States, conduct your business, and leave. Those persons who are going for vacation, where are you going to quarantine? You're going to go to Orlando, enjoy your vacation, and then you're going to leave. Now, I believe the Americans who have traveled, who have some other things, who have a home, just like with us, when you come home, you ought to quarantine. When you're on vacation, there are some perimeters that guide what you do. So I don't believe that's going to be a significant deterrent in folks visiting the United States. And the truth of the matter is, even from our travel shop, people understand that you've got to pay for this $50 test. And once you're negative, you can travel. And it's not an impediment, because the reality is the money that you will save when you travel abroad to restore your homes and do the other things will far offset the charge for a negative COVID test.
General Manager at the Ministry of Tourism, Stephen Johnson, says there are now travel requirements in most countries around the world due to COVID-19.
Minister of Tourism is working diligently to get an exemption, and so we'll leave that there for him to come back and tell us exactly what. But I imagine it will have some effects on the Bahamas. The good thing about it is that we have stats where people want to come here. I mean, even though our COVID numbers to us as Bahamians are we look at it as being high, to the rest of the world they look at it as being one of the lowest in the world and in the region. And so that's a good thing, but we can't let our guards down. We have to continue to do everything we need to do with all the safety protocols to ensure that the visitor coming in is safe, and also to ensure that we're safe.
Well, on his first day in office, President Joe Biden signed more than a dozen executive orders, some of which reversed decisions made by his predecessor, former President Donald Trump. One of those executive actions include mandatory quarantine for persons traveling to the United States from other countries. Our Ramiko Knowles took to the streets of Grand Bahama today to find out how Grand Bahamians feel about the recently implemented travel requirements.
The United States President Joe Biden stating that on his first day in office, changing the course of the COVID-19 crisis would be a top priority, and as a result, new measures were instituted which requires persons to wear masks on federal modes of transportation such as airplanes, buses, and trains. New travel requirements were also instituted. If you were planning to travel to the United States, your trip may be a bit hectic as new travel and entry protocols dictate that as of January 26th, all passengers traveling by air will have to present a negative COVID-19 test taken within 3 days of departure or proof of recovery from the virus within the last 90 days. In addition, mandatory quarantine. These new measures are not sitting well with Grand Bahamians.
I don't feel like it's a big problem or a big issue because when you look at it, in the Bahamas, they require the same thing here with travelers. So it's no more than fair that when we travel there, that we meet the requirements that they have put out for everyone else. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Once you have a test within a reasonable amount of time, I don't understand the quarantine after that. You know, because if it's negative, I don't quite get what is the reason for the quarantine after the fact that you've already gotten a negative test.
I like to go to Florida, and I just like to stay 3 days. Because if you go there, you have to stay in hotel, but you don't have enough money to pay hotels for 2 weeks. I think that's wrong.
They can pay for the expenses, you being there, the hotel, the food, everything. If they could do all of that, then yeah.
I think it's a great idea. It's just that it came too late. Florida has been in a disarray and increase in cases for the last 6 months. And only because of people bringing the virus in. And because of that, it's spread among the residents.
Violet Patrick and other residents say that safety is paramount, and they agree with the new measures instituted.
I think for right now, I deserve it. Why I said that? There's so much of cases over there. The former president didn't care. This one care. So it might hurt us for now, but in the long run, it benefits us.
We trying to protect the citizens here in the Bahamas. He trying to protect the Americans by every means necessary.
Right? You agree with it?
So, yeah. I don't have a problem with it.
I think it's a great idea. It's just that it came too late. Florida has been in a disarray and increase in cases for the last 6 months. And only because of people bringing the virus in. And because of that, it's spread among the residents.
However, some are of the view that the decision to quarantine upon arrival makes it even more difficult to travel, and under the present condition, they would prefer to remain home.
I wasn't in a position to be traveling anytime soon. So it's not a big deal.
It makes it so much more expensive now.
I believe he knows what he's doing, so. I mean, I wouldn't be going to the state to get quarantined for no 14 days. I would stay right in the Bahamas because it's better in the Bahamas than we're going away. I stay right here.
Stay home. That's the best thing. Because if you go over there and you can't afford to pay for the hotel, why go? Stay at home until the situation over. It ain't long now. That's how I feel.
It's something like 3-4 days, sure. But for a week, can't afford to.
Ramiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Great story. Thank you, Ramiko. Well, police on Grand Bahama clarifying an incident that took place yesterday involving a male and an underage child that made the social media rounds today. Tonight, police press liaison officer knows that it was not an attempted kidnapping. However, the perpetrator is being questioned by police. Going viral today. The WhatsApp post read, in part, that someone tried to kidnap a little girl by a plaza and the perpetrator ran and left his vehicle. Press Liaison Officer Superintendent Teresita Pinder clearing up the information by sharing what actually took place, noting that it was an adult male that attempted to pick up an underage girl.
It was reported to police on Thursday, the 21st of January, 2021, shortly before 7 p.m., that an underage 14-year-old female, while at a business establishment on Blair Road, was approached by a male driving a gray vehicle who asked her some personal questions. She became afraid and reported the matter to her father, who contacted the police. Officers quickly responded, but on arrival, the suspect had already left. Officers of the Northeastern Division conducted further inquiries into this matter, and on Friday the 22nd of January, the suspect was arrested.
Just 2 weeks ago, a man was charged with the attempted stealing of 3 primary school girls on Grand Bahama. The matter had the island of Grand Bahama shaken, but thanks to the quick action of officers, the suspect was arrested and taken into custody within a day. However, Pinder says this particular incident was different.
The Royal Bahamas Police Force would like to tell members of the public that there was no kidnapping or abduction or any attempted kidnapping or abduction in this matter.
She leaves this message for parents and guardians.
But we would like to remind parents to remain vigilant and to always remember to remind their children to always report matters to them immediately, like it was done in this case, where officers responded very quickly and we were able to apprehend this person.
Switching gears, Bahamas Power and Light issuing a statement recently noting that as the company's distribution systems in Abaco conclude, they are ramping up efforts to rebuild and improve the transmission network on the island to improve the efficient and reliable provision of power. BPL is also working with the government of the Bahamas and its consultants to increase solar penetration with installations slated for the various hospitals and clinics on the island. Now, BPL is also working to restore supply to a number of keys, repairing or preparing to replace subsea cables damaged by the storm. Megan Shepard has this update.
In North Abaco, work to rebuild overhead infrastructure to connect Treasure Key and Cooperstown has been completed. Work within the community of Red Bay has been completed. Teams are now concluding the line construction from Turtle Rocks to tie in and energize this area. Trenching in Eastern Shores to lay ducts for BPL and the communications company is at 90%. Once the trenching is completed and ducts installed, BPL will replace the underground cabling servicing this community and Sugarloaf Key. Teams also continue preparation to connect the remaining keys to the mainland by building lines to the Crossing Beach area. That would allow the elimination of temporary generation on a number of keys. Now, as it relates to the keys, work on Dickey's Key has been completed. On Sandy Key, all areas are completed and all transformers are online. BPL is awaiting remaining customers to apply for service. Most of Elbow Key has been completely restored. The areas of Freres Mango has been energized, and 4 customers who were ready have been provided with supply. 4 transformers were restored, leaving only 3 transformers to be completed in this area, which is expected to happen by the end of this week. Teams continue work on Guana Key to energize the remaining communities on the northern end of the key. All areas on Guana Key are to be energized by the end of January. Work to repair the subsea section of cable servicing the north of Manowar Key continuing as well. It is expected that this work will be completed by the end of January. Teams continue work on Lubbers Key to test and repair damaged cables and transformers. Work on Tulu Key is scheduled to commence on February 1st, 2021, behind the energization of Lubbers Key. The subsea cabling to Garden Key has been energized. Additional work, however, is required on the key to prepare for the connection of customers. This work is scheduled for the week ending January 24th. The replacement transformer for the last unit on Matelot Key has now been received in Abaco and will be installed by the end of January. Assessments for Pelican Key off Green Turtle Key started this period. It has been identified that a portion of subsea cabling there requires repair. This work is being scheduled. Now, BPL also continues to reconnect customers who have completed repairs to their homes and businesses and have received inspection certificates. Teams began the restoration of street lighting in the territory, installing nearly 200 lights on the mainland and Keys. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.